Florida's supposed to be the retirement promised land, right? No state income tax, endless beaches, sunshine 365 days a year. Except here's what they don't tell you. The median home price across Florida now sits somewhere between $372,000 and $425,000. And if you're eyeing those famous coastal towns everyone talks about, so the tax savings that made Florida famous? They're getting eaten alive by mortgage payments. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. There are 15 coastal towns in Florida where you can buy a home for under $300,000. Some are sitting at $245,000, and they're not landlocked retirement parks 2 hours from the nearest beach. These are actual coastal communities with ocean access, real infrastructure, and tax advantages that compound over decades. The catch? They're clustered in 3 specific corridors most retirees don't know exist. Here are 15 low-cost Florida beach towns retirees should know about. Fort Pierce. Fort Pierce sits on the Atlantic coast in St. Lucie County, and its median home price comes in just under $300,000. That number alone makes it one of the cheapest coastal entry points in the entire state. The dual savings multiplier works like this. When you buy a home significantly below the state median, you're locking in a permanently lower property tax base. Property taxes in Florida are calculated as a percentage of your home's assessed value, so a $300,000 home costs less every single year you own it compared to a $400,000 home. Fort Pierce takes this further because of a tax loophole most people miss. Florida offers an additional senior property tax exemption for residents 65 and older whose property is valued at less than $250,000. Maintain residency for 25 uninterrupted years, and the exemption can zero out the county portion of your tax bill entirely. Fort Pierce's median sits just under $300,000, but properties at or below $250,000 exist throughout the area. That makes this one of the only coastal markets where a younger retiree could buy now and lock in the ultimate tax advantage later. St. Lucie County's effective property tax rate runs between 0.94 and 0.99%. The long-term exemption potential is what shifts the math. Daytona Beach. Daytona Beach has name recognition that rivals Miami. NASCAR headquarters. Hard-packed sand beaches. And yet the typical home price in the city is approximately $245,000. One of the most famous beach destinations in America is also one of the absolute cheapest places to buy coastal property in Florida. Even the broader metro area keeps its median around $355,000, still well below the state figure. This is the town for retirees who want activity without paying resort prices. You get proximity to water parks, golf courses, entertainment districts, and genuine tourism infrastructure. Advent Health Daytona Beach earned a 5-star rating for patient outcomes. Volusia County's effective property tax rate sits between 0.79 and 0.98%. Combine that with the $245,000 entry price, and you're looking at one of the lowest annual tax bills on this entire list. Cocoa. Cocoa sits on the Space Coast in Brevard County, and its median home price hovers around $270,000. That's cheap, but it's not the cheapest on this list. So why does Cocoa consistently outperform lower-priced towns when you run the long-term math? Brevard County's effective property tax rate runs between 0.72 and 0.90%. That's one of the lowest rates for any coastal county in Florida. And here's what that means in practice. Over a 20-year retirement, the cumulative property tax savings from that lower rate can actually exceed the savings you'd get from buying a slightly cheaper home in a county with a higher rate. Fort Pierce might have a lower median home price, but St. Lucie County's rate is higher. Run the numbers across 2 decades and Cocoa pulls ahead on total cost of ownership. This is the long-term hold winner. The cost of living index for the area, measured around nearby Cape Canaveral, sits at about 101.9. That's essentially identical to the national average, which is borderline absurd for a town steps from the Atlantic Ocean. You're getting coastal access without the coastal markup on groceries, utilities, and services. Cocoa Beach, the immediate neighbor, offers genuine walkability in specific sections, particularly around the downtown and pier areas. Most Florida coastal towns are car-dependent by design, so the ability to walk to shops, restaurants, and the beach is a rare and undervalued amenity. Cocoa also delivers the Space Coast spectacle. Rocket launches from nearby Kennedy Space Center light up the sky regularly, and cruise ship terminals provide easy access to ports without the congestion of Orlando. If you're prioritizing the lowest possible recurring costs over the lowest possible purchase price, Brevard County is where the math tilts in your favor. Titusville. Titusville is also in Brevard County, which means it inherits that same 0.72 to 0.90% property tax advantage. Home prices here sit around $299,000, keeping it firmly in the affordable range. What sets Titusville apart is access without congestion. You're close enough to the Atlantic beaches and the intracoastal waterway to reach them in minutes, but you're not dealing with the cruise ship traffic or tourist infrastructure that defines Cocoa Beach. Instead, you get Canaveral National Seashore and Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, which translates to birdwatching, hiking, and quiet shorelines. Titusville is the nature lover's version of the Space Coast. You still get front row seats to rocket launches. Some of the best viewing spots are here, but without the crowds. The town skews quieter and more residential, appealing to retirees who want proximity to activity without living inside it. The Brevard County tax rate is doing most of the financial heavy lifting, but the lower daily cost of living and the emphasis on outdoor recreation make this a solid pick for anyone whose retirement plan involves more trails than shopping districts. Vero Beach. Vero Beach operates in Indian River County, which has earned a reputation for being upscale and expensive, and parts of it are. But the county's median home value sits at $284,400, proving that affordable property exists if you know where to look. The town itself leans into old Florida charm. Uncrowded beaches, a slower pace, and a genuinely active arts and culture scene centered around the Vero Beach Museum of Art. This is the retirement destination for people who want quiet sophistication without paying Naples prices for it. But here's the financial angle that makes Vero Beach stand out. Indian River County has one of the lowest effective property tax rates for any coastal county in Florida, 0.73%. That's even lower than Brevard County. Pair that with the low county median, and you're looking at an annual property tax bill that rivals inland towns. Vero Beach isn't trying to be Daytona Beach. It's not loud, it's not packed with entertainment districts, and it's not going to appeal to retirees who want constant activity. But if your retirement vision involves morning walks on empty beaches, afternoon gallery visits, and a community that values culture over nightlife, the financial structure here makes it one of the smartest long-term picks on the Atlantic coast. Valparaiso. Valparaiso sits in the Florida Panhandle just inland from the Emerald Coast, and its median home price is $236,250. That's the second lowest verified price on this entire list, and it's the gateway to some of the most famous beaches in the South. The Emerald Coast gets its name from the sugar white sand and emerald green water that define the region. Destin, the main beach town in the area, is expensive. Valparaiso isn't. You're a short drive from those same beaches, but you're paying a fraction of the price because you're not living directly on the Gulf. The population here is around 5,000, so this is small town living. Quiet neighborhoods, minimal traffic, a slower pace. For retirees who want access to world-class beaches without the resort town lifestyle, Valparaiso offers the best price to proximity ratio in the Panhandle. And here's the exemption angle again. At $236,000, this is the only other town on this list besides Daytona Beach where the median home price falls below the $250,000 threshold for that ultimate long-term tax exemption. If you're in your 60s, buying here positions you to potentially zero out your county property taxes after 25 years of residency. That's not a small detail. That's a retirement endgame strategy. Callaway. Callaway is a suburb of Panama City in Bay County. with a median home price of $286,000. It's not the cheapest town in the Panhandle, but it offers something the cheaper options don't: direct access to East Bay. East Bay provides a different kind of Gulf Coast recreation. Instead of the open Gulf, you're looking at calmer, more sheltered water, ideal for kayaking, canoeing, and wildlife spotting. The Bay ecosystem attracts birdwatchers and anglers who want a quieter, more nature-focused experience than the tourist beaches provide. Bay County's median home value is listed at $235,244, which keeps the overall market affordable. The county's effective property tax rate is 1.10%, which is on the higher end of this list. But because the median home value is so low, the resulting annual tax bill stays manageable, around $2,427. Callaway appeals to retirees who want suburban peace with city amenities nearby. Panama City provides shopping, medical facilities, and entertainment options, but you're not living in the middle of it. You're getting the best of both: small town quiet with urban backup. Lynn Haven. Lynn Haven is also in Bay County, which means it shares the same affordable home price structure as Callaway. But where Callaway leans suburban and family-oriented, Lynn Haven leans specifically toward retirees. The town is noted for its peaceful environment, safe neighborhoods, and quiet streets. It's not trying to attract young families or tourists. It's designed for people who want security, routine, and a slower pace. Community parks and green spaces provide easy walking access, and the proximity to Panama City means you're never far from larger amenities when you need them. This is the Panhandle option for retirees who prioritize safety and predictability over activity and entertainment. The financial structure mirrors Callaway. Low home prices in Bay County offset the slightly higher property tax rate, but the lifestyle here is quieter and more retirement-focused by design. Pensacola. Pensacola's median home price in the metro area is approximately $389,900. That's higher than most towns on this list, and at first glance, it doesn't seem to fit the low-cost criteria. But here's where Pensacola flips the script. Its cost of living index is 11% lower than the national average and 13.7% lower than the Florida state average. That daily savings advantage is enormous when you're living on a fixed income. What this means in practice is that the higher home price gets offset by dramatically lower monthly expenses. Groceries, utilities, services, entertainment, everything costs less here than in most of Florida. And if you're spending 30 years in retirement, those daily savings compound faster than the upfront housing savings you'd get in a slightly cheaper town. Pensacola has a large retiree population. 18.3% of the city is 65 or older, which translates to infrastructure built around senior needs. The healthcare is strong. Ascension Sacred Heart Pensacola earned a 5-star rating for best practices. The beaches are classic Gulf Coast: white sand, emerald water, wide and accessible. Escambia County's effective property tax rate is 0.79%, which is competitive. Combined with the lower cost of living, Pensacola becomes the choice for retirees who care more about monthly cash flow than purchase price. There's one major caveat. Pensacola gets 57.7 inches of annual rainfall, and the entire Gulf Coast faces elevated hurricane exposure. Insurance costs can be significantly higher here than on the Atlantic side. That's not a small consideration. The low daily expenses are real, but you need to budget for higher homeowners and flood insurance premiums, which can eat into the affordability advantage. Fort Walton Beach. Fort Walton Beach sits in the same Northwest Gulf region as Pensacola, which means it operates within the lower cost of living structure that defines the Panhandle. The town itself is smaller and quieter than Pensacola, offering genuine small-town living directly on the Gulf. The appeal here is local identity. Fort Walton Beach hasn't been overrun by tourists or transformed into a resort town. It maintains a slower pace, friendly community feel, and easy access to beaches and parks. The Air Force Armament Museum provides a unique cultural attraction, and the proximity to Eglin Air Force Base means the area has strong infrastructure and services. This is the Panhandle option for retirees who want the Gulf Coast lifestyle without the crowds or the big city infrastructure. You're trading some amenities for authenticity and quiet, but the lower cost of living and the beach access make it a strong value proposition. Englewood. Englewood sits in Charlotte County on Florida's southwest Gulf Coast, with a median home price around $335,000. That's higher than the Panhandle options, but it's still well below the state median, and it offers access to a region that's typically out of reach for budget-conscious retirees. Englewood is known nationally as one of the most budget-friendly destinations for seasonal residents, which tells you something about its overall affordability structure. The town itself is low-key and nature-focused. It sits along Lemon Bay, with access to Cedar Point Environmental Park, which features pine flatwoods and tidal mangroves ideal for birdwatching. The beaches here are uncrowded and quiet, appealing to retirees who want solitude over entertainment. There's no boardwalk, no tourist district, no spring break scene, just access to the Gulf and the natural environment. Charlotte County's effective property tax rate is 1.03%, which is on the higher end of this list. But the combination of the lower home price relative to the region and the proximity to areas like Sarasota and Naples, where prices are double or triple, makes Englewood the backdoor into Southwest Florida's upscale coastline. One warning: the region is vulnerable to tropical weather. Some beaches here experience temporary closures due to recent hurricane damage. That's not unique to Englewood, it's a Gulf Coast reality, but it's worth factoring into your decision if storm risk is a deal breaker. Port Charlotte. Port Charlotte is also in Charlotte County, sitting almost exactly halfway between Sarasota and Fort Myers. It doesn't have the lowest home prices on this list, but it offers something most other affordable towns don't. 165 miles of navigable waterways surrounding Charlotte Harbor. This is the town for retirees whose retirement plan revolves around boating, fishing, or water sports. You get direct access to Charlotte Harbor and an extensive network of canals and tributaries, all at a fraction of the cost you'd pay in Fort Myers or Naples. The infrastructure here is built around water access, making it the affordable version of Florida's famous boating lifestyle. The waterway system isn't just for show. Charlotte Harbor connects to the Gulf of Mexico, which means you can launch from your neighborhood and reach open water in under an hour. The canals provide sheltered areas for kayaking and paddleboarding, while the harbor itself offers deep water fishing and sailing opportunities. For retirees who've dreamed of spending their days on the water but couldn't afford traditional waterfront property, Port Charlotte delivers that lifestyle at a price point that actually works. The trade-off is walkability. Charlotte County scores low on overall walkability, around 7.6 on the index, so you're going to need a car for daily errands. The town is sprawling and suburban, designed around automobile access rather than pedestrian infrastructure. Grocery stores, medical facilities, and restaurants are spread out, making car ownership essentially mandatory. But if your priority is water access over pedestrian infrastructure, Port Charlotte delivers more value per dollar than almost any other town in the state. The property tax rate is 1.03%, same as Englewood. The slightly higher rate is the cost of living in a county that offers this much recreational infrastructure. But when you compare Port Charlotte's waterway access to similar towns in Lee or Collier counties, the savings are substantial. You're looking at half the price for comparable water access, and that gap only widens the closer you get to Naples or Fort Myers Beach. The community here skews older and quieter. There's not much nightlife, and the entertainment options are limited compared to bigger cities. But for retirees whose idea of a perfect day involves fishing at dawn, an afternoon boat ride, and watching the sunset from a dock, Port Charlotte offers one of the best quality of life to cost ratios in Florida. Cape Coral. Cape Coral sits in the Cape Coral-Fort Myers metro area, where the median price for single-family homes is approximately $389,900. That's one of the higher prices on this list, and it might seem like it doesn't belong in a low-cost roundup. But here's the reframe. Cape Coral isn't selling affordable housing, it's selling affordable waterfront access. The town has 400 miles of navigable canals, the most of any city in the world. Many properties offer private boat access directly from the backyard. In most Florida coastal markets, waterfront property runs well into the seven figures. Cape Coral gives you canal access at under $400,000. The infrastructure here is unique. The canal system was engineered specifically to provide widespread water access, turning what would normally be a luxury amenity into a middle-class option. If you're a retiree whose hobby is boating, this is the most financially efficient way to get direct water access in Florida. The town is also known for safety and high-quality health care. Fort Myers, just across the bridge, is home to Lee Memorial Hospital, which earned 5 stars for patient outcomes. The area has strong regional medical infrastructure, which matters when you're planning a 20 or 30-year retirement. What makes Cape Coral work financially is the sheer scale of the canal system. Because so many properties have water access, the premium for waterfront living is diluted across the entire market. In most coastal towns, waterfront lots command double or triple the price of non-waterfront properties. In Cape Coral, the gap is much smaller because waterfront isn't rare, it's common. That market dynamic keeps prices lower than they would be in a comparable town with limited water access. The canals themselves vary in quality. Some connect directly to the Caloosahatchee River and provide Gulf access. Others are landlocked, offering aesthetic water views but no boat passage to open water. Understanding which canals connect to the river system is critical when shopping for property here. Gulf access canals command higher prices, but even non-access canals provide dockage and a waterfront lifestyle that would cost significantly more in other markets. The community is large. Cape Coral has a population over 200,000, which means you get suburban infrastructure, shopping centers, chain restaurants, and all the conveniences of a mid-sized city. It's not a small beach town. It's a planned community that grew into a full-fledged city, and that scale comes with both benefits and drawbacks. You lose some of the small-town charm, but you gain access to amenities and services that smaller towns can't support. Cape Coral's higher home price is a trade-off, but it's a trade-off for something specific. If waterfront living is non-negotiable, this is the cheapest way to get it on Florida's Gulf Coast, and when you factor in the recreational value, the safety ratings, and the healthcare access, the premium starts to make sense. Dunedin. Dunedin sits near Clearwater on the Gulf Coast with a median home price of $341,700. Its cost of living index is 17% more expensive than the national average, making it the highest COL on this entire list. So why is it here? Because Dunedin is the only town on Florida's west coast that offers genuine walkability. It's one of the state's oldest towns, with a quaint Scottish-themed downtown filled with bars, restaurants, coffee shops, and parks. The urban-suburban mix means you can actually live here without a car, or at least reduce car dependence significantly. For retirees, eliminating car ownership is a massive long-term savings. You're cutting car payments, insurance, maintenance, gas, and registration fees. Those costs add up to thousands of dollars annually. So while Dunedin's daily cost of living is higher, the ability to go car optional often offsets the premium. The walkability isn't just about downtown. The Pinellas Trail, a 47-mile paved path running through the county, passes directly through Dunedin. The trail connects to parks, beaches, shopping districts, and neighboring towns, providing safe, car-free access to a wide range of destinations. For retirees who want to bike or walk for exercise and transportation, the trail system is a game changer. Dunedin's downtown is compact and pedestrian-friendly. The main street features locally owned shops, art galleries, and outdoor cafes. The atmosphere leans more European village than Florida beach town, with tree-lined sidewalks and historic architecture. There's a farmer's market, live music venues, and community events that draw residents out of their homes and into public spaces. For retirees who value social connection and community engagement, Dunedin's walkable infrastructure makes those interactions easier and more frequent. The healthcare system here is strong. Mies Dunedin received a 5-star rating for value, which is a rare designation. The hospital's focus on efficiency and patient outcomes makes it a regional standout, and its proximity to Clearwater and Tampa means access to larger medical centers is never more than a short drive away. The higher cost of living shows up in housing, dining, and services. Restaurants and coffee shops are pricier than in other towns on this list. Property taxes are competitive but not the lowest. Utilities and insurance run slightly higher due to the area's desirability and density. But the trade-off is infrastructure that supports a car-free or car-light lifestyle, and for many retirees that trade-off is worth it. Dunedin isn't for everyone. If you're purely cost-focused, there are cheaper options. But if walkability is a priority, if the ability to stroll to dinner, the grocery store, and the beach without getting in a car is worth paying extra for, this is the only West Coast town that delivers. And when you calculate the long-term savings from reduced car dependence, the higher sticker price starts to look less like a premium and more like a strategic investment. Cape Canaveral. Cape Canaveral sits on the Space Coast near Cocoa, and its cost of living index is 101.9, essentially identical to the national average. That's a remarkable number for a town with direct Atlantic access, cruise ship terminals, and proximity to Kennedy Space Center. The town offers a balanced lifestyle. You get small-town living with the spectacle of the aerospace industry. Rocket launches are part of the local fabric. Cruise terminals provide easy access to Caribbean travel. The beaches are accessible, the community is active, and the cost structure is competitive. Cape Canaveral benefits from Brevard County's property tax rate, which runs between 0.72 and 0.90%. That lower rate, combined with the near-national average cost of living, makes this one of the best all-around value propositions on the Atlantic coast. This is the town for retirees who want a dynamic environment without the chaos of a major metro. You're not retiring to a sleepy fishing village. You're retiring to a place where the global aerospace industry operates in your backyard, but where the daily rhythm is still manageable and affordable. The rocket launches are more than just a novelty. They're a community event. Launch schedules draw residents to viewing areas along the beach and the port. The night launches, in particular, light up the sky and create a shared experience that bonds the community. For retirees who want to feel connected to something larger without sacrificing small-town comfort, Cape Canaveral offers that balance. The cruise port is another major draw. Port Canaveral is one of the busiest cruise ports in the world, offering direct access to Caribbean cruises, Bahamas trips, and transatlantic voyages. For retirees who enjoy travel but want to avoid airport hassles, living minutes from a major cruise terminal is a significant lifestyle advantage. You can drive to the port, park, and board your ship without dealing with flights, security lines, or layovers. The beaches here are less crowded than those in Cocoa Beach or further south. Jetty Park offers fishing, picnicking, and beach access with amenities like restrooms and showers. The Banana River and Indian River Lagoon provide sheltered water for kayaking and paddleboarding. The overall vibe is active but not touristy, with enough outdoor recreation to keep retirees engaged without the spring break crowds that define other parts of the Atlantic coast. Cape Canaveral's combination of low property taxes, near national average cost of living, and unique lifestyle amenities makes it a strong contender for retirees who want coastal access with a distinctive identity. It's not the cheapest town on this list, but the value proposition is compelling when you factor in the full package. The Florida retirement dream isn't dead, it's just geographically specific now. If you're chasing coastal living, you have to know which corridors still offer the combination of low entry prices, competitive property tax rates, and manageable daily costs. The Atlantic Coast Value Corridor gives you the lowest long-term property tax rates. The Northwest Gulf and Panhandle region gives you the lowest daily cost of living. The Southwest Gulf Gems give you access to waterways and natural preserves without the Naples price tag. And if you're strategic about it, if you understand the dual savings multiplier, the long-term senior exemptions, and the trade-offs between purchase price and recurring costs, you can structure a retirement in Florida that actually delivers on the tax-free promise the state is famous for. The back doors are still open. You just have to know where to look.